Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. When is the right time to buy a new Mac? MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So when deciding if it's the right time to buy a new Mac, there are two major factors to take into consideration. One is, of course, is Apple about to come out with a new version of the Mac that you're looking at? The other is, what are your needs? Is it time for you to get a new Mac? Now, a lot of thought and discussion goes into that first question, but I think the second question is actually more important for most people. So let's start off by taking a look at how often you should be buying a new Mac. Mac users fall into a wide range from people that always want to have the latest and greatest Mac even if they're buying a new one every year, to people that want to buy one and use it as long as they possibly can before getting a new Mac. Most of us fall somewhere in between. I think there are four major factors that determine where you are there. One, of course, is budget. Macs cost the same no matter which situation you're in. For some people, buying a new Mac really isn't that big of an expense, while for others it's a major expense. Another thing to consider is what you use your Mac for. Some people are just home users. They actually don't use it for work at all. They use it just for browsing the web, communicating with people, maybe playing some games, things like that. On the other hand, some people use it for work. So they're actually making their living from using their Mac. And a lot of us are in between. Sometimes using it for work, sometimes using it for home. If you do use your Mac for work, you may want to consider the return you get on your investment. For instance, if getting a newer, better, faster Mac is actually going to allow you to earn more money, then it could easily be worth it to buy a new Mac. But if it doesn't really matter if you've got an older Mac or a newer Mac, then it's not that big of a factor. Like for instance, maybe you're a writer and writing with a word processor, it's not going to make that much of a difference if your Mac's 5 years old or brand new. Another thing to consider is how much you push your Mac. Whether you're a home user or whether you use it for work, if say you're using it to edit video and maybe when you bought it you were editing 720 video and now you're editing 4K video and using lots more effects, then it may be time for a new Mac. But on the other hand, if you're just using it for web browsing and email and word processing, then you may not be pushing it much at all. So using your current Mac really isn't a problem. So before you decide to buy, ask yourself these three questions. First, is your current Mac meeting your needs? If you can do everything that you want just fine on your current Mac and you don't feel that a new Mac is going to help in any way, then that pretty much points to sticking with the current Mac for a while. Second is, would a new Mac actually allow you to do things better? For instance, could you do things faster, save yourself time, be more efficient? And don't just think of things like the processor or the age of the Mac. Think of things like, are the new keyboards maybe better for typing? Is the new screen better for you seeing what's there or maybe larger? Maybe when you bought your old Mac you bought too small of a drive and you're struggling with that. So it's not necessarily getting a Mac that's newer now with a newer processor, but this time you would get one with a larger drive. There's lots to consider, but think of how things would be different if you got a new Mac. And third, do you have the money right now to buy a new Mac? For some people this isn't a problem. For others this is a major consideration and you should really think of this as one of the main reasons to either buy or not buy a new Mac. And if the answer is that you don't quite have the money now, maybe plan for the future so that when you do actually need a new Mac and can't wait any longer, you've got the money set aside. Now of course the other major factor is, what does Apple have coming soon? You don't want to buy a new Mac and then find out that Apple has come out with a new model just a few days later. So you want to pay attention to what Apple has out now, the rumors that are out, and also the history of the model you're looking into. There are several places you can go to get this information. First, get the Mac Tracker app. It's a free app in the Mac App Store. Once you have it, you can actually research all of the current and past Mac models. So let's say you're interested in getting a MacBook Air. You can look at MacBook Air models. You can scroll through the list and see about how often Apple comes out with the new models. You can also see the differences between those models. Another place to go is Wikipedia. For any Mac model there's going to be a detailed page in Wikipedia about that model. You'll find the history as well as lots of charts and timelines, and you can see how often a new model comes out and what the different capabilities of those models are. And finally, you want to go to MacRumors.com. Click on Buyer's Guide here and then go down to the model that you want. So in this case we're going to go to Macs and we're going to look at MacBook Air. You can see it says don't buy there. Now keep in mind that Mac Rumors is definitely a site for Mac enthusiasts. So it's going to give advice that's not necessarily practical, but it's advice if you're really into Macs and you want to make sure that you have the latest model. If I go in here you can see that the MacBook Air hasn't been updated in 566 days. So they think a new one is due pretty soon, and they're probably right. So if you don't need a new MacBook Air right now and you could afford to wait another few weeks or months, then it is probably worth waiting for. On the other hand, if you look at a model like, say, the Mac Studio, you could see that was released only 83 days ago. It's unlikely there's going to be a new version of this one anytime soon, so it's a good time to buy. Now it's not always the end of the world to buy a Mac and then find out a new version of that model gets released just a few months later. Some people actually prefer it that way. Getting a tried and true model that's been out for a while and doesn't seem to have any major hardware defects as opposed to being one of the first people to get a new model. Also, Apple supports models based on the number of years old they are. So if you buy something that was new and for sale and a few months later there's a new Mac model that comes out, there's really not going to be that much of a difference. It's not like Apple's going to drop support next year for that new Mac you just bought. It's still going to be 5 to 7 years down the road that all software updates and everything is going to be supported. I would say the main reason to wait for a new model to come out, if it's been rumored that there's one coming, is if you're an Apple enthusiast. So it's very important to you to have the latest and greatest. Even if you can't have that every year, knowing that maybe every 5th year you're the one with the latest and greatest model. There's nothing wrong with that. There's people that are enthusiasts for all sorts of things like phones, cars, clothing that want to have the latest and greatest at least some of the time. So waiting a couple months to get that new MacBook Air as opposed to the existing model could be worth it to you. Another reason that getting the latest model that just came out isn't best for everybody is a lot of people like to buy certified refurbished Apple products. I'm talking about ones directly from Apple, not refurbished and for sale somewhere else. If you want a refurbished Mac, you're not going to be able to find the brand new model that just came out here. It takes a few months for new models to make their way to the refurbished site. So if you're looking for that discount you get with a refurbished product, then buying the existing model instead of waiting for the new one is the way to go. Another reason not to wait is if there's a big life change coming up. Like for instance, you're starting school. There may be rumors that there's a new Mac model coming out maybe soon after school begins, but you're probably going to want to get your new Mac before school starts, get it all set up, and not have any interruptions in the middle of a semester when you upgrade your Mac. Another thing you should know about is Apple has a no questions asked return policy for 14 days. So in the very unlikely event that you buy a new Mac and Apple releases a new product right after it, within those 2 weeks, you could actually return your Mac and get the new one. So if you know Apple is doing a new product announcement next week, you think it's unlikely they introduced a new iMac or MacBook Pro or whatever it is you're interested in, but you think you'd wait just to be safe, well, you could always buy now. And if the rumors were wrong and they do release a new product, then you could return it, get the new one. So in summary, I always recommend that you buy a new Mac when you need it, not based on rumors and not based on when you feel a new model might come out. But if you're not in a rush, it might be worth it to check to make sure Apple isn't about to come out with a new version of that Mac soon. And if they are, then you might want to wait. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.